From the quiet fields, where the wind carries more than whispers, and the soil remembers every drop that's ever fed it. This is Night Harvest. Tonight's story is Blacktop's Siren.
They'd closed 10 miles of I-40 to pour the new skin. Cones, barrels, arrow boards blinking their soft commandments. Left, right, merge, be obedient. The detour swung me along county roads that had forgotten they were once important. But somewhere between mileposts, past a stack of orange sleeping giants and a closed sign looped with caution tape, I found a ribbon of asphalt that wasn't supposed to be open and felt open anyway. Black as a piano lid, soft as breath after a prayer. I should have stayed with the detour. I should have trusted paint and plastic and authority. I didn't. The night had a hush to it that said, "Try me," and the new road lay there like a dare someone had tied a bow on. Half a mile in, she waved me down. From far away, she was just a person in trouble, both hands up, palms flashing in my lows. That universal semaphore truckers translate no matter the language. Close up, she was the road pretending to be help. Her hair was rebar threads drawn out thin and shining, sparking at the ends where their metal tired against air. Her eyes were bulbs trapped under glass, high beams burning behind irises made from safety glass mosaic. When she smiled, her lips bled oil that beaded and ran and never quite fell, so the smile kept redrawing itself like a neon sign with a bad transformer. "Hey, driver," she called, voice a heat shimmer. "Can you call someone? There's been a wreck." I set the brakes. The cones here were wrong, printed shadow instead of traffic plastic. When my lights swung across them, they didn't brighten. They deepened, like water with a secret. My boots stuck the tiniest bit when I climbed down, as if the new surface wanted to borrow them for a while and see where I'd taken them. "Where?" I asked, because it is a reflex to serve. You don't leave people on the side if you can help it. That's our oath, whether we say it out loud or not. She lifted her arm. It was long and smooth and ended in 5 fingers that tapered to rivulets. She pointed just beyond where the lane narrowed to a single file between machines that weren't machines so much as the memory of them. A paver with no hoses, a roller with no seams. Just there. I can't go. It hurts. "What's your name?" I asked, stalling to let my brain catch up to my skin. She frowned like I'd been rude and then remembered manners. "Name?" She pointed at the ground. "I'm Road." "You're not," I said and smiled because anything else would have been screaming. The smile pleased her. The oil bead lip curved higher, bled darker. She tilted her head, and the glass in her eyes broke my beams into diamonds that scattered on her cheeks and fell into the blacktop with the softest hiss, like rain on a warm griddle. "Then I'm everyone who died here," she said simply. "I'm the way they remember." The smell hit me then, layered and exact, hot steel, antifreeze, the jasmine of burned upholstery, the chemical sweetness of windshield washer fluid spilled on summer tar. Every crash you've ever slowed for is a bouquet if you change your nose. "I'm sorry," I said, meaning it even while the hair on my arms tried to stand through a denim jacket. "I can't help you. You're not a you." She stepped closer. The air around her quivered, pencil lines and heat. The new asphalt flexed under her bare feet, surface tension breaking, then knitting, like a pond holding a bird. "I'm plenty of me," she corrected. I'm every oh God and every please baby and every last breath that fogged against glass that wouldn't break. Look. She reached with the soft side of her hand. No cut, no sting, and touched my elbow. Memory poured into me like a shot, plastic trim snapping under a knee, a child's shoe rolling and fetching against the pedals, the loud embarrassment of a horn stuck on after everything is over. For a second the world narrowed to a circle the size of a gas cap and all of it was fire blue. I jerked back. The boot lifted up strings of tar that clung, broke, clung again. She held both hands up, palms out like a trooper calming a scene. I only want you to see what you drive on, she said. You all act like it's just surface. It's a grave with lanes. What happens if I step closer? I asked. Part of me wanted to. Part of me wanted to lay down with my cheek on that shine and listen to what the road had to say about me. You leave your tread, she said sweetly, and I sing with it when the sun is on me. I do that for all my boys. I saw then what lay under her feet, coins flattened to ovals, keys bent like letters learning cursive, scraps of a letter with the middle burned out, photos with faces rubbed away by weather. A little brass Saint Christopher whose features had melted until the saint looked like a man without them. When the wind talked, there was no wind. The papers shifted. Names showed and hid in a shuffle, and I caught one that belonged to a kid I'd given a Gatorade to at a wreck in Kansas, 4 summers back. The name winked and then slid under the surface like it hadn't wanted me to see it. You want me to stay? I said. I want you to know, she said. If knowing means staying, that's just honest. You drive on a field of promises. Driver, I am those, stuck and sung. The rest is physics. I've learned to listen for the thin places, those spots where the world goes threadbare and you can see the stitching. There are thunderstorms that open them. There are songs on AM after midnight that open them. There are fresh roads poured over old pain that open them. This was all 3. I'm leaving, I said. Not hard, just true. She nodded, a proud teacher. Then take the shoulder, she said. The lane's for those who already said yes. Behind her, the lane did something lanes don't. It seemed to slope upward a degree you could feel but not see, like a treadmill's incline you forget to turn off. Past the first 100 yards I could make out shapes pressed into the black, impressions that had no right to be there, the ghost of a grill, a handprint, the tight spiral gouge a drive shaft leaves when it tries to write its name on the world. How many? I asked before I thought better. She smiled and her teeth were pieces of glass from 1,000 taillights. Red, red, red. Enough for a choir, she said. Enough to harmonize. A rumble ran along the surface under us. Not my engine, not trucks, not anything but the road remembering. It traveled. I felt it reach the tires and rise through the belts, through the wheel, through my bones. My fillings sang for a beat. The cones shivered and clacked together with no wind to persuade them. The arrow board blinked left, 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 and then showed nothing at all as if it had forgotten its verbs. Why me? I asked. You slowed, she said. Most blow by. Some stop and kneel. You slowed. That's consent. I thought about the night Mama died and how I passed the hospital twice before going in, like showing up too fast would make it inevitable. I thought about a trooper's face in my mirror, years ago, telling me a thing that would live with me forever. I thought about telling the boy in Nebraska no, and how the no saved me and damned him both. The road keeps its own math. It never shows you the ledger, but it makes you feel the balance due. Show me, I said. and I don't know which part of me said it. She held her hand out, and I took it because I am a man, and men take outlandish hands at 2 in the morning and call it a decision. Her palm was warm, like the hood of a car 3 hours after you park it. The warmth climbed my wrist. It eased old aches as it went, an elbow I'd cracked once on a dock plate, a finger I'd jammed cranking down a landing gear, the knot in my neck that never quite forgave Wyoming. I stepped beside her onto the lane. It wasn't sticky exactly. It was persuasive. My boot sunk a half-inch and then came back grudgingly, a kiss that thought about being a bite. We took 5 steps. At each step, little things surfaced, mica glints, grit with memory. We stopped where the lane's shine picked up some new color I couldn't name, like sunlight seen under lake water. There was no wreck. There was a wreck that was always happening. She squeezed my hand, eyes bright as fresh housings, and the road lifted a picture into the air the way heat lifts a mirage. A sedan in snow, spun backwards, nose in the center median, tail toward me like it had been trying to back into a parking space in the afterlife. The horn was stuck. The driver's window had made a pretty star and then gone to powder. A woman's hand patted at the air like a swimmer who forgot water. I couldn't hear the words in her mouth, but I knew the shape. Please. Please tends to fit anywhere. I had not been there when that happened. The road didn't care. It brought me there now. The vision shifted. One of those focus pulls you feel in your teeth. A pickup on a summer shoulder. Steam like a white scarf. A man staring at a phone that showed 0 bars because physics hates him. His kid was in the back seat. A bicycle helmet still on because they had just left the park. Gummy bears in a cup holder like offerings on a small altar. The kid asked a question I couldn't hear except I could, because kids ask it at every scene and at every bedside and at every hallway where men who've been told something stand very still. Is Mom okay? The siren watched me watch, pleased like a host whose hors d'oeuvres landed. This is what I sing, she said. This and more. All day when the sun heats me. All night when the cold knots me. I sing them until drivers hear me and slow a breath longer than they meant. That breath saves someone sometimes. Sometimes it just hurts kinder. Then you help, I said, relieved to find a way to call this good. I keep, she said. Help is you. Keep is me. We stood there another minute, or 5, or a length of time that only the new asphalt knew. The visions went past like the world's worst slideshow. Not gore. Never that. The road does not delight in blood. It is interested in momentum and the blasphemy of its sudden ending. I saw coins tumble in the footwell and find a hole I didn't know was there and drop through. I saw rosary's string split and the beads roll like planets. I saw a dashboard Jesus kiss his own hands and not forgive. Enough, I said. She cocked her head. You asked. I did. I'm unasking. The oil at her lip fattened. The smile wavered. She looked back down the lane, and the mirage folded itself back into the black like cloth. Where the air had been picture, it was only air again. I took a breath that felt like it had been owed for a couple years. You'll go? She asked, not offended, curious, like a scientist checking a sample. I will. I said, I still have to make Elk City by stupid o'clock. Take the shoulder, she reminded, and then, gentler, driver, sometimes the lane is hungry. It tastes like praise. Don't feed it unless you mean to lose weight you can't get back. What happens to the men who don't take the shoulder? I asked, though I knew the answer from history and the local paper and the way truck stop coffee tastes different the morning after certain kinds of news. Her eyes brightened, twin housings flaring. They teach me more songs. We walked back toward the rig, hand in hand like a couple on a beach deciding if the tide is friend or thief. At the bumper, I eased my hand free. My palm left a print on hers, skin against tar, mapped with the lines you can read like a fortune if you're the kind who reads hands. She studied it. You carry a lot, she said. Left hand says you don't put it down even when the place asks you to. Right hand says, she smiled, you think names are locks. Sometimes they are. She cocked her head again, listening to something under us. A truck 3 miles out, she said. Tires with scalp, brakes that want to talk. He'll stop for me. You'll sing? I'll try. I climbed the steps. The wheel was stickier than feels nice, not unpleasant exactly, like someone had palmed it with grease that knew me. I thought of gloves, then didn't. Between my boots, tar strand webbed, stringing until it snapped and curled back. The siren stood in my beams. She didn't step aside. She sunk a finger's width, like she had roots and they'd found water. My headlights flared in her eyes and she laughed, delighted, as if I'd paid a compliment to a dress. You always come back, she said as I put her in gear. When the tires go bald, when the jobs get mean, when the life gets too heavy to carry anywhere else, you always come back to me. I know, I said, the truth of it a coin under my tongue. But not today. I took the shoulder, slow. The cone shadows turned their heads as if to watch. The arrow board offered left again, then decided it didn't know me and went blank. A breeze that wasn't one slid its hand through the grass at the margin and made a sound like whispering unhooking. The rig hummed the way a throat does when it wants to sing and decides not to. At the merge, a barricade that hadn't been there when I came in stood across the lane, reflective stripes shining like a shut eye. I threaded past it and out into the duller old pavement and felt the tires relax, a subtle exhale through the wheel. The night widened again, less stress, more field. I checked mirrors out of reflex and saw her as long as my glass would hold her. She braided her rebar hair into a black crown and pinned it with a nail pulled from someplace I didn't want to think about. She watched me go with the bemused concern of a hostess when a guest leaves a party just as the music gets good. Then she turned, and the lane brightened a shade as if anticipating. The radio stayed quiet. No ghosts on 19 tonight. No night talkers keeping lonely off folks. I turned it on anyway. A little static for company. A little hiss in the dark. The day thought about being born somewhere behind the plane. Asphalt glittered with ground-up taillights. Red crushed into dust that the first sun would persuade into diamonds for a minute. If you stare too long, it looks like stars. I didn't stare. I drove. At a fuel stop 2 towns later, the kid behind the counter asked if I'd come through the pour. They shut it last week, he said, bored because he was young and hadn't yet learned the taste of a thing that almost took you. State says it's curing till Monday. Looked open, I said. He shrugged. People make their own opens. In the bathroom, I washed my hands longer than needed. The water ran gray for a second and then clear, though I couldn't tell if that was me or plumbing. In the mirror, under the right corner of my mouth, a glint I first thought was a shave nick resolved into a fleck of something black. Tar, road skin, her. I scrubbed at it with the corner of a paper towel until it let go with reluctance and floated in the sink like a dead moth. On my way out, A man at the coffee machine held the pot high and said, "You want?" He had the soft eyes of someone 2 states from where he meant to be, and the quiet politeness of grief that doesn't want to take up space. "Top me," I said. "Where are you coming from?" he asked, because men ask the road about itself when they're afraid to ask each other. "West," I said. "Newport." He nodded once, slow. "My boy," he said, and then changed his mind about the rest of the sentence and shook his head instead. He pushed the cup back to me like a bartender sliding absolution. Out in the lot, a crow walked around picking at a strip of blown tire, proud of his find. A woman in a minivan wiped sleep from her face with both hands at once, and then fixed her mouth in a smile before turning to the back seat. A kid with a neon green cast swung it like a weapon at nobody in particular. Life, you know, auditioning for itself again and getting the part. I rolled. The miles laid down. I kept glancing at the shoulder like it was a friend I'd promised to call and then didn't. Around sunrise, the world turned lake-colored. Fog got born in the ditches and stayed small. I thought about what the siren had said. I keep. That felt right. That felt like a job description the road could print on a badge. I thought about what I do. I go. I get it there. I watch the lane and the mirrors and the gauges like rosary beads I can touch. And I thought about the third thing, the thing she hinted at that none of us admit. We feed the road praise when we show up in its lane and make speed where it begs for slowness. We give it hosannas made of steel. I didn't promise anything out loud. I don't make vows I can't honor. But when the next construction sign announced night paving ahead, I took the long way without arguing. It put 2 hours on the day. I lost nothing that mattered. Weeks later, eastbound, different shift, I passed that stretch again. Officially open now. Fresh paint, cat's eyes bright as coin. No cones, no arrow boards. A trooper tucked in the median like a spider in its proper web. The lane looked harmless. It looked like any new road. The siren didn't wave. I don't think she had to. I could feel her, quiet under the weight of 100 tires an hour, humming names into heat. The shoulder kept its modest gravel. I nodded to it like you nod to an old pastor in the grocery line. At a diner 2 exits beyond, the waitress had a scar over her lip that looked like a punctuation mark deciding between question and period. She poured refills with the competence of someone who had done more dangerous things and had the good sense to be quiet about them. On the wall, a corkboard of local notices, guitar lessons, a missing dog, an AA meeting schedule someone had underlined 3 times. There was also a clipping. I didn't look. You know when you shouldn't. The coffee was fine. The pie was better. The bill came with a ballpoint pen that had the asphalt company's logo on it. I almost laughed and didn't, because sometimes you have to let the world have its jokes. That night I dreamed about walking barefoot along a 2-lane in August, heat brews in the air, cicadas sawing, and how the tar would stick, take a part of you, give a part back. In the dream, the siren sat cross-legged on the center stripe, hair braided into a crown, hands bright with the grease of history. She was younger than before, or maybe older, time lying the way it lies when you're dealing with things that don't keep calendars. "You'll come see me again," she said, not a question. "When I must," I said. "You always must." "Not today," I told her, same as the first night. She smiled. This time the oil didn't bead. It sank into her lip and stayed. "Then bring me something when you do. A song I don't know." A story where the lane starves for once and the shoulder feasts. What would that look like? I asked. She thought, eyes dimming to a resting glow. Men who don't hurry, she said finally. Boys who do their crying before they drive. Prayers spoken at green lights, not just red. I'll see what I can do, I said, and woke up laughing at myself. A driver promising a road he'd reorganize men. The next morning I checked the tread wear on the steers and rotated what needed rotating and ran my hand along the sidewall of the trailer like it was the flank of something that could buck me into heaven if it forgot who I was. The tar fleck under my lip never came back, but when the sun hit the chrome, a fine black smear drew across my reflection for a second and then didn't. I took that as a wave. I took that as permission. I took that as warning. I still take shoulders more than lanes when the air has that hurt metal breath. I still slow for nothing I can name. I still keep the radio on when there's no one to talk to, just a hiss to say I'm not alone. And when I pass fresh pores, I keep my eyes ahead and my hands steady, because you can fall in love with the wrong choir if you listen long enough. We all need a hymn. Mine just happens to smell like tar.
If you liked this story and want to hear more like it, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and remember, some stories only grow in the dark. Good night, everyone.